Hello and welcome to my Kpop budget end of year check-in. Let's get into it. At the beginning of the year, I posted a video detailing the setup of my Notion spreadsheet and how I track my Kpop spending. So now, 12 months later, I want to go through that spreadsheet with you and discuss if I stayed on budget. Spoiler alert, I did. Actually, I'm really proud of myself this year. I spent significantly less than what I allotted for the year. So let's go through that. Here is my yearly total spend table. As mentioned in my original video, I allotted $5,000 for myself for the entire year, which is approximately $415 per month. As you can see, I am well under that budget. Thus far, I have spent a total of $2,932.23, just under $3,000, nearly $2,000 under my budget. Now, it is still early December, and I do have some items that I will still need to pay for, like the Anities in the Calling merch items, which are in transit to my Korean proxy. So that shipping and tariff payment is not accounted for in this total. Probably by the actual end of year, maybe this total will be another $200 higher, give or take, but that means I'll be around $1,800 under budget, which I'm really, really happy with. This is the least amount of money I have spent on K-pop since I started collecting K-pop. So I won't go into all the individual databases again. If you haven't watched my original video, you can go back and watch that to see how I separate everything and what kind of data I track. I'll go through just a few of the databases to highlight what I was buying and how I tracked it. I'll start with albums and merch. This is where I spent the most amount of money apart from the ATEEZ comeback. So as you can see, all the items in this database are listed under merch. And you might be thinking, but this is the albums and merch database. Well, in previous years, I would sometimes buy albums separately from the Purple Kiss group orders I joined or the ATEEZ comebacks I hosted for, but that was when I was collecting more than just ATEEZ and Purple Kiss. For example, I used to buy TXT or Dreamcatcher albums, but I did not do that this year. RIP Dreamcatcher. However, one of my collecting habits I changed for 2025 was that I decided to only collect ATEEZ and Purple Kiss. Therefore, I probably could have just labeled this database as merch, which I will probably do for 2026. At first, I thought I was spending less on merch overall this year, but after having looked at this database, I realized that the amount I spent was probably on par with previous years, maybe even a little more. I am getting a little merched out though, so I foresee this pattern changing in the future. As you can see, the majority of items I bought were for ATEEZ. A lot of items are not surprising. It's tour merch, Anities merch, birthday merch. Some of the one-off items that I wouldn't normally buy are the Zikers and Extraordinary Heroes items. These are items I didn't originally account for at the beginning of the year, but I went to a Zikers concert, so I bought their membership and their light stick, and for Extraordinary Heroes, I bought a plush, something I wasn't planning on buying if it wasn't so cute. There's also the Mighties merch, and I, again, was not planning on buying that, but I'm a clown. So with all that said, I want to point out my notes section now. You'll see here that I have something in my notes listed as CC cashback. I get cashback when I use my credit card, so as my cashback accumulates, I will use those funds and apply it to merch items I have bought, so it kind of negates the money I've spent on that item, so I won't apply that item to the overall total. You'll see here that I have taken out the album and merch roll-up from this line item. I still keep the line item in the database, so I know what items I bought. I still want to keep track of that data, but when I'm looking at my overall yearly spend, anything I use my cash back on, I will not count that towards the overall yearly spend. So the total you see here is different from the total that is listed here. Now let's go through my sales database. You'll see in this database that the majority of the items are from Golden Hour Part 1 and 2, and down at the bottom I have some merch items, but there aren't any items from Golden Hour Part 3 included in the sales database because I keep all the data pertaining to a specific comeback together in that comeback database. So this total you see at the bottom here is not the true net sales total because I sold more things than this, but those things had to do with Golden Hour Part 3. So those light items are listed in the comeback database, but I don't need to keep track of the true net sales total. Ultimately, that data I don't need because no matter where I list my sales items, they all still funnel into my overall total spend, which is the true data I'm looking to track. That's all I wanted to point out for sales. So now we can get into the comeback database. So you'll see here I have only one comeback database, even though I think you could technically say ATEEZ had two comebacks with Lemon Drop and In Your Fantasy. However, I decided to keep everything in one database because both these comebacks fell under Golden Hour Part 3. It does make this database a bit long, and there's a lot of items listed here, but I still stand by the decision to keep everything in one database. Because I label everything as clearly as possible and I always date everything, it still helps me differentiate from Lemon Drop items and In Your Fantasy items. And specifically for In Your Fantasy, I labeled all the items with IYF at the beginning. So for items bought, there's some Go items here, some individual items bought. And for Goes, I always list the total amount I spent, even if I'm not keeping those items. And again, you will see in my notes, I try to be as specific as possible with what I bought and also if I used cash back. I only use cash back for individual items I buy. And then under money received, I've talked about this in my original video, but I listed types of payments I got, whether it was for a group order, a proxy payment, or a sales item. So as you can see, there are a lot of sales items listed here, and these are the sales items that I did not include in the sales database because I want them specifically listed under this comeback database because I want to know the final amount I spent on my comeback. So this amount, $1,234.73, if I'm just dividing that evenly in two, so half I spent on Lemon Drop, half I spent on In Your Fantasy, it comes to about $617 per comeback. Obviously, it does not split evenly like that, but this gives me a good idea of how much money I spent per comeback and helps me stay within my loose budgeting goals. I believe I mentioned this in my original video, but I try not to spend more than $700 on an ATEEZ comeback. That is just the personal amount that I allot for myself. It's not a strict budget per se. It's just based on previous data of how much money I typically spend on ATEEZ comebacks. And this is obviously not accounting for if I apply to fan calls either. This comeback, I did not apply to any fan calls, so I think that majorly contributes to how I have been able to stay under budget as well. If I had applied to a fan call, this amount would probably be at least $1,000 more. So that is it. That is really all the things I wanted to talk about. I will touch on my taxes as well. Like I said in my original video, I keep track of everything I import into the United States because the items I buy in Korea, I do not pay taxes on. And when I import things, it goes through customs and the IRS knows what you import, and I don't want to be audited. So I always declare everything I import on my tax return. So I pay those taxes, even if I'm not keeping the items, because I charge my group order joiners a sales tax because I am essentially paying their sales tax. So thus far, this is everything I have or will be importing. I just recently ordered the 2026 Season's Greetings, so that is not in my possession yet, and neither is the Anities and Calling. But at the end of the year, when everything is imported, this is the amount of taxes I will have to pay. So I hope you found this video interesting or enlightening in any way. If you also keep track of your finances like this, let me know how you did with your budgeting. I find information like this, at least like it helps me become more knowledgeable and more financially literate. And I think being financially literate, especially in this economy, is very, very important for hobby collectors like myself. So yeah, let me know how you all have done in your own budgeting this year. Let me know your 2026 goals. Because I spent so far under my allotted budget for 2025, and I foresee myself spending even less next year, I will probably lower my budget to $4,000 for the year to start with. But again, I hope to remain far under that budget because, times are tough and I just want to be spending less overall. So yeah, that's all for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.